Tombi was a revolutionary platformer video game series releasing between 1997 and 2000 on the original Sony PlayStation. After the release of the second game, however, the developer, known as Whoopee Camp, disbanded shortly after its launch. So what the hell happened? This is what I'm going to investigate and find answers throughout the video. This is the rise and fall of Tombi. Before I begin, I would like to clarify that in Europe, these games are listed under the name Tombi. However, in North America and Japan, the series is named Tomba. Being that I reside in Europe, I will refer to the game series as Tombi instead. So where did it all begin? Allow me to introduce Tokuro Fujiwara, the director, producer and creator of Tombi. Fujiwara's career began in 1982 when he joined Konami as a game director and developer. While at Konami, Fujiwara worked on titles such as Puyan, an arcade shooter in 1982, and Rock and Rope, an arcade platformer in 1983. Later in 1983, Fujiwara decides to leave Konami in favor of Capcom, where he was able to truly make a name for himself in the gaming industry. Fujiwara directed many early Capcom titles, most notably the run-and-gun shooter Commando in 1985, the platformers Ghosts and Goblins in 1985, Bionic Commando in 1987, and the survival horror game Sweet Home in 1989. He was also the main producer for the Mega Man series, a working associate with the game Strider in 1989, a general producer for the original Resident Evil in 1996, and he also worked as a general manager of the Capcom console games division from 1988 to 1996. However, in 1996, after 13 years of work in Capcom, he quits the company to start his own gaming company, Whoopee Camp. And this is where the creation of Tombi begins. While successful at Capcom, Fujiwara was not given the freedom to create games that he truly desired. He felt that Whoopee Camp would finally give him the room to realize his dreams in gaming. With many years of experience under his belt and a reputation of being an excellent director, producer and developer, many were confused by this change. However, a quote from the Japanese PlayStation magazine in 1997 encapsulates his motives clearly. Fujiwara states, "Basically, I guess I just needed to make an action-style game." It was evident Fujiwara was looking to take the best aspects of past projects and implement those into a new and exciting two-dimensional side-scroller, Tombi. Fujiwara decided to set Tombi apart from other timing-based action games by placing an emphasis on high-skill, nuanced, decision-based gameplay. Through this, he was able to cultivate a highly flexible and free environment unique to Tombi. This foundation, coupled with non-linear events and the gradual growth of in-game abilities and resources, there were not too many games that could compete with what Tombi had to offer. Tombi's soundtrack was composed by Harumi Fujita with some help from Nao Hatsutani. The team also had 4 programmers, 10 designers and 3 planners working on the game, as well as staff in administration and marketing divisions with a total of 25 employees. After a year of development, Tombi was released on December 25, 1997 in Japan, July 16, 1998 in North America, and finally on August 28, 1998, it was released on Europe. Tombi was met with resounding positivity. The non-linear and variations of the event system was praised, although some did feel they took away from the main story of the game at times. Nonetheless, Tombi received even more praise for the controls, vibrant visuals, and crisp character animations in both 2D characters and the 3D polygonal environments. While Tombi was praised for many things, the audio left a lot to be desired. While some people enjoyed it, many reported the audio was primitive or minimalist in comparison to the vibrant game world and action-oriented gameplay. Post-release, it was obvious Tombi stood out from the pack. Fujiwara knew this, and he even stated as follows in the Japanese PlayStation magazine 1997 interview. "It's got the pure fun of an action game, combined with the way the stages change after certain story beats or events. As your goals or your objectives change, you accordingly think, I should do this or I should do that. So instead of the kind of timing-based action games that we've seen so far, it's like there's a high degree of flexibility and freedom, which includes thinking and decision making. And that's what I think makes it different. While successful in its own right, Tombi did not reach mainstream status. This is most evident through the sales figures for the game. 150,000 copies sold in North America, 100,000 copies sold in Europe, and 20,000 copies sold in various other regions. This brings us to a total of 260,000 copies sold worldwide, not including the estimated 60,000 to 80,000 copies sold in its homeland of Japan, as these figures are not verifiable as Tombi was self-published by Whoopee Camp in Japan. The overall low game sales were a letdown for Fujiwara, but he still felt that Tombi sold well enough to justify a sequel, so the Whoopee Camp team started working on the sequel, Tombi 2. After the full release of Tombi, Fujiwara turned his attention towards the development of the sequel Tombi 2 or Tomba 2, The Evil Swine Return. This time, however, Fujiwara passed the role of director to Kuniaki Kakuwa, but retained his responsibilities as a developer to focus his full attention on creating another unique and revolutionary experience in the Tombi universe. This time Fujiwara implemented a three-dimensional polygonal design to allow for even greater expressive freedom. Using this method, Fujiwara was able to realize various systems and mechanics not possible using the two-dimensional framework of the original Tombi, such as dynamic camera movement during cutscenes. During the platforming and action sections, the original 2D design was kept in order not to alienate those who enjoyed the previous game. Only the town sections found in the game featured fully 3D-oriented gameplay. Tombi 2 featured brand new composers as well. Shiina Ozawa composed the soundtrack for the Japanese version, while Ashif Hakik composed the soundtrack for the international version of the game. Tombi 2 also featured full voice acting, something not seen in the first game. This coupled with all of the positive changes would make Tombi 2 a true standout in the genre. Released on October 28, 1999 in Japan, North America on January 18, 2000 and in Europe on June 16, 2000, Tombi 2 had quite a lot going for it and received positive reviews from critics praising its intricate yet accessible challenging gameplay and variations in the game's side stories and item quests. With improvements made to the controls, inventory, user interface and the right amount of consistency with the previous title, Tombi 2 was beloved by its fans. While it was well received by the fan base, the sales numbers tell a different story. Tombi 2 sold 160,000 copies in North America, 110,000 copies in Europe, 20,000 copies in other regions, and an estimated 60,000 to 80,000 copies in Japan, which is slightly more than the original game sold. These numbers are not healthy in financial terms to keep making more sequels, and unfortunately, this led to the eventual disbanding of Whoopee Camp, and much of its staff moved to Access Games that specializes in the planning, development, and distribution of video games. Still, the question remains, how did a team led by Tokuro Fujiwara, someone with a decade and a half of development experience, release two commercially unsuccessful video games? Let's break things down step by step. Both Tombi games had low budgets, estimated at 5 to 6 figures. This low budget could have limited the marketing and promotion needed to spread the word about a new IP. If you compare this budget to one of the bigger PS1 games at the time, Final Fantasy VII, which had an estimated budget of $40 million, we can begin to understand how such a limited budget can influence the reach of Tombi and Tombi 2. While both games did have a limited marketing campaign, it's safe to assume that the majority of the budget allocated was spent on development of the games. Marketing and advertising are crucial to the success when promoting a new IP. There was a promotional Tombi VHS tape shown in Japanese stores, and various merchandise such as Tombi and pig plushies, t-shirts, phone cards, postcards, etc. It's hard to say what positive effect those attempts had on the game overall. So as you know by now, these games were under the name Tombi in Europe and Tomba in both North America and Japan. There was a speculation by Erik Engström of Hardcore Gaming 101 stating that the name change was motivated by the fact that Tomba is an Italian word meaning grave, thus prompting alternative branding to Tombi. Although understandable to an extent, it's hard to count out the possibility of this confusing many potential customers. Not a deal breaker, but I do not think it helped the situation any further. Like, imagine if Mario was called Murio in Europe and Mario in other continents. That would be confusing, right? Tombi as an intellectual property is an interesting one. Many people regarded it as too wacky and maybe even a bit weird, which made it a hard sell. There were many other competitors at the time in the realm of similar platform-type games, both 2D and 3D, such as Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, Mega Man and Rayman. And who you can truly blame? From the consumer's perspective, I think the choice was obvious for many potential buyers. Would you rather buy a game starring a cool-looking dragon, a funky bandicoot, or a half-naked boy with a pink hair? The design choice was risky for Tombi, and thus it alienated a lot of potential customers to spend their money on other games instead. Many speculate the timing for both Tombi games was questionable at best. In the late 1990s, true 3D games were rising in popularity. While Tombi 2 did feature some 3D aspects and sections, both of the games were still 2.5D titles. It's worth considering if Tombi and Tombi 2 would have seen more success if not surrounded by so many great 3D experiences in a time when many consumers were more interested in that overall. This is further emphasized by the release of Rayman, released on September 1st, 1995, selling over 3 million copies on the original PlayStation alone. There was always a possibility that Whoopee Camp could have collaborated together with Capcom for better success with the Tombi IP. Other game companies like Orica had a strong relationship with Capcom, as for example, they were able to use Street Fighter IP and characters in their Street Fighter EX series of games for the PlayStation, which helped their sales numbers. Fujiwara, however, had this to say about collaborating with Capcom. Fundamentally, I have left Capcom and as such have completely cut all business relations with them. That's not to say that we can't ever do any business with them. After having just gone through the trouble of leaving though, I'd like to try going alone. It's possible that we might do something with Capcom in the future, but we have no plans to do so now. To summarize, the Tombi series was beloved by fans, ambitious and revolutionary to an extent. There were obvious problems along the way, such as low marketing budget, renaming the game per region, the release timing, lack of collaborations, and the drastic leaps into 3D video games many of its competitors were already taking. You may wonder how Tokuro Fujiwara has done since the release of Tombi and Tombi 2. I am happy to say he has gone on to work on a variety of other projects, such as directing Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins, developed by Tosei in 2006, original game design on Mad World, developed by Platinum Games in 2009, and many others. We have even seen a revival of Fujiwara's company Whoopee Camp to allow him to become a consultant for various companies and projects throughout the gaming industry. Also, the 2020 release of Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection had the Whoopee Camp logo found in the credits, which is a cool thing to see after all these years. Despite the lack of commercial success of Tombi and Tombi 2, Tokuro Fujiwara has gone on to make a lifelong career working on many of the games we have come love. And in 2021, the man, the legend, is now 60 years old and is still one of the most beloved people known in the gaming industry as a whole. That's it, folks. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Hepodix and I hope you have a wonderful day.